And welcome back, everybody, to another episode of Bubba and the Bloom, episode 146. It's Tuesday night, so we're going to talk some news and notes from around baseball and get on a balloon board once again. A fun one, year-to-day stats versus rest of season projections for hitters. So that'll be a fun one to break down for you. You guys brought some good questions. If you're listening live, keep them coming. We'll try to get to all of them. I don't see why we wouldn't. But before we get to that, you can find me on Twitter at BDNtrick, the podcast at Bubba Bloom Pod, and my co-host, as always, on the Twitter at RyanBHQ. Ryan Bloomfield, how we doing, my friend?
Good, man. All is normal here at the homestead. So got a packed show tonight. This might be record breaking for a number of news items we have. I tried to so a little behind the scenes look. Bubba puts together the news items. I do the bloom boards, of course. Try to get it all on one page for you for your save you some paper. But you wouldn't be able to see the board. So I had to go landscape mode, so you can print it out and get it nice and big for you on your piece of paper, so you can follow along tonight. So doing the little things for you to make your life easy.
Well, that's what friends and co-hosts are for, right there, folks. That's the good things. Like when he has to work with a caveman like myself, he helps me out. It's a beautiful thing. But yes. He said, Ryan, when I say he, sends out the rough outline to me in the morning, and then I always put the news in when I have a chance throughout the day. I'll usually text him back like, hey, here's the relevant stuff. There's a little, there's a lot, whatever. I filled out this one, and I just gave him a heads up. I said, this is a lot, but it's actually relevant. He looked at it. I'm like, yep. So, folks, basically I'm saying a lot of ILs coming up. it's not
a lot of dudes are hurt, some
good.
Bad, some a little bit.
Yeah. So let's just get at it. Let's just have some fun. I guess the most fun we can possibly have with this situation. And we'll start with Fernando Tatis Jr. And I really wanted to hit on this one out the gate because when I finish doing my news that I do during the weekdays, my little column, and I do the First Pitch podcast, it was like Fernando Tatis Jr. to the IL with, this femoral contusion, like shin issue thing. And it was supposed to be, it's not too bad, like 10 days. Cool. About an hour after that, news comes out that it's not good. He's going to be out probably 3 to 4 weeks. The goal is before the All-Star break, but most likely after the All-Star break, which makes me wonder if there's more of a fracture situation in this than just a bad bruise or something. You're not dropping Tatis, Ryan, but what would we want to do to approach this? Because I believe it was Brice Johnson got recalled. Speedster Brice Johnson. So there could be a little relevancy there.
Laid down a bunt single tonight, Brice Johnson. Did you see the clip with Tatis when they asked him how long he'd be out? It's like he kind of knows how long he's going to be out, but he won't say.
Yeah, it sounds like Tatis.
It's a serious injury, and it is very safe to assume he will be out longer than the minimum 10 days. Which, I would think at the very least we're after the All-Star break at this point. Was having a decent year, like nothing, not like a Mookie Betts, who I think Betts was going ahead of Tatis, but certainly next to like a Corbin Carroll or I don't know, even like Freddie Freeman. Tatis 14 homers, 8 steals, 279. He kind of stopped running. 2 steals each of the last 2 months, probably related to this thing in his quad or shin or whatever. So just kind of hope he gets back, hope he gets right. But yeah, there's not really like in terms of the Padres. I mean, we say Brice Johnson, speedster. I don't know. It's probably a platoon between Brice Johnson and the freight train, David Peralta, which isn't
Maggie. No.
It's I don't know. It's not great. But I don't know. Maybe if Johnson gets enough playing time, this is a guy who stole 30 plus bases for your Giants in AAA in 21 and 22. Had 18 bags this year in AAA, hit 300 with a decent K rate, 19% strikeout rate. So I don't think there's much pop here, but there's bat on ball and there's speed. So maybe that is of interest for you if you already are starting to look at categories. It's almost that time of year to start looking at categories where you're bunched up and things, and maybe Brice Johnson is an option, but we'll see how it shakes out between him and Peralta.
Yeah, I agree. I think Johnson, when I first dug into him on Monday, I think there's some potential to be a 15-team relevant guy if he starts playing every day. I think there's something there. I guess we'll have to wait and see throughout the week on how that pans out. Probably talk more about it on Thursday night. But it's definitely someone to keep in mind. But, it seems like it sucks because Tatis and Bryce Harper, I know I'm not going on a ledge here, but those are like my NL MVP picks preseason. Harper's still looking good for now. Tatis
Yes.
was looking good to start the year, and that went quiet. So we'll see how that goes. But as Anthony Gialdi in the chat says, another first rounder goes down. Yeah, it's been a theme this year. It's been pretty wild. So let's talk about another first rounder, Kyle Tucker, who seems like forever ago now, about a week or so ago, about 10 days probably, fouled a ball off of his shin, and he was day-to-day, was supposed to only miss a game or two, no biggie. Well, he's still really not doing a whole lot of baseball activities. He's like trying to hit off a tee and maybe some live BP soon, but it's been a while, and they're still thinking at least 3 weeks before Kyle Tucker comes back. So we're talking all-star break there, and that's at least. Like, there's still no exact timetable for Kyle Tucker. Again, you're not dropping him, but this just makes a guy like Joey Loperfido a lot more exciting to me, potentially, for the time being. I don't know if you have any thoughts on this one.
Yeah, no, the Tucker thing was weird because I remember like the hope was the minimum 10 days, but he was like still on crutches near the end of that. So either Houston doesn't know what they're doing or they're just not telling us.
Like Houston, we have a problem.
I mean, geez, no, that was not good. But if we're gonna not trust an organization, I think Houston's up there.
Safe.
It's gonna be interesting. So like for now, Joey Loperfido and Chas McCormick, I think, get regular run like at each corner. Jake Myers in center. And once Tucker comes back, I almost feel like it's maybe that'll end up being a platoon or something, depending how they do. I almost feel like that's a competition for who's going to stay in the starting lineup once Tucker comes back. Chas McCormick actually was I think available in a good number of fab leagues this past week. Has hit 2 homers, has gone 4 for 12 over the last week, 3 homers over the last month, has hit a little bit better recently since returning from the IL. And obviously this is someone who we were both pretty high on entering the season. I don't think from a skill standpoint that much has changed with Chas McCormick. So yeah, Loperfido's interesting. I think Chas McCormick is the one, though. He at least has shown success at the MLB level. If he continues to get playing time and play more like he has over the last week, I think Chas McCormick could be kind of a sneaky, modest second half rebound guy.
I would love that because I dropped him in a lot of my 12s. I know I still have some 15s where I had availability and a lot of DCs that have Chas McCormick because, like you said, we were both very high on him. So we always joke about our DC teams barely being able to start a lineup, maybe sometimes not even technically put a starting lineup together. So having him come back would definitely be a welcome sight.
Chas is only 55% rostered in 12-teamers on the NFBC, so widely available.
Change. That is going to change this weekend. That is going to change for sure. Another one that's might change in another direction if we get some more news here in a couple days. Josh Young. This was a bummer because I know I stashed him in a couple places recently, and some other people that we know have stashed him as well. He was expected to take batting practice on Tuesday, the day we were recording the show. And if all went well, be activated and be back in the Rangers lineup on Tuesday evening. Well, Josh Young did not take batting practice on Tuesday as he is dealing with soreness and a mild tendon sprain, they're saying, or strain in his surgically repaired wrist. He's flying to Texas or going to see the Texas doctors to get further evaluated on this, which doesn't make me feel great because I was telling Ryan off air, the fact that Josh Young didn't even try to take batting practice concerns me in this scenario. So we'll have to wait and see the extent of this injury, but this feels like this could be another 2 to 4 weeks, maybe longer. Maybe it's short, maybe it's nothing. But like I said, the fact he didn't even swing the bat makes me think it's at least another couple weeks.
Which is good news for Josh H. Smith, who I think, I don't know. I was starting to get curious what would happen when Young came back because you and Ben Tidd talked about, June, not overperformers, but June standouts. Yeah. Can't think of words tonight, which is a problem on a podcast. But I did not realize how good Josh Smith has been lately. Over the last month, hitting 356, man, with 5 homers and 2 steals. Like, you kind of can't bench that. But now the Rangers don't really have to make that call for a little while. So I know Josh H. Smith is pretty much rostered everywhere. If he's not, absolutely should be. But just gives him a little bit more leash. Maybe it's also more leash for Ezekiel Duran. He would realistically be the one who should. We don't make the calls, but should be losing playing time once Young comes back.
Yep, completely agree. That should be some of the standouts as well. So Duran and Smith should both be locked back in for a while. But we'll wait. Maybe, like I said, maybe it was just kind of a soreness thing, and that's just whatever. We'll see. But it doesn't feel good with Josh Young. Brian Wu. He's actually going on the IL this time. Usually when we talk about Wu, it's like, oh, he's got this forearm thing, but he's good and he's making his next start. Okay. But now Brian Wu is going to the IL with a hamstring injury, going to be out 2 to 4 weeks. Like they're saying it's a mild strain, but they've already said 2 to 4 weeks, which makes you think it's a little more than a mild strain on this one. So, and he didn't sound very excited either when they interviewed him. He was like crying about it, which I understand he's missing time, but it didn't look good. So, Brian Wu's going to be down for a while. Like, again, can't really drop him, but we'll see what the Mariners do with this one.
No, can't drop him given how, elite Brian Wu has been. Yeah, I do feel bad for the guy just because he's gone through so many damn injuries. It's all been arm-related, and this hamstring thing just came out of the blue. No idea if this is similar, like, intensity as Justin Steele's hamstring injury on opening day, but Steele missed a little bit over a month, so it sounds something similar. With Brian Wu, I don't know what the Mariners are going to do, honestly, with their number 5 spot. They were going to call Emerson Hancock back up, but he got hurt. I think he hurt his back or something in the minors.
Back injury, yep.
So, yeah, I am not clear on what the Mariners are going to do with the 5th spot, and given their options, at least the ones I'm aware of, I don't think we should be that interested in what they do with the 5th spot. Look in other rotations or other streamers while Wu is out.
I'm looking at their minor league, and I think it's
probably Jonathan Diaz.
That's right. Jonathan Diaz will be interesting because he made the spot start last time we went out. It's 5 1/3, 3 and 4 Ks against the White Sox. I remember that. And I thought like maybe they should keep him around, but he got sent back down because Wu was fine. I could see Jonathan Diaz getting the first crack at this, at least until Emerson Hancock is healthy, because they love Emerson Hancock, even though it's not that good. So we'll see. Justin Verlander, going back to the Houston Astros here, still dealing with his neck injury, still progressing extremely slowly, still has no timetable for return. So this feels like I wouldn't be shocked if this is an all-star break thing with him. They're going to slow play this one. So Verlander's down for a bit. He's like, he hasn't even, like, he was good, but I guess like short outings, not a lot of strikeouts at times. But man, it's a rough go for Verlander.
Yeah, for Houston Astro, Justin Verlander, this has no effect on David Peterson's outlook for the Mets. So that's all I have to say on that one.
Yeah, no, it's probably business as usual in Houston because they just need pitching badly. Luis Garcia is actually supposed to get a rehab start this week, which would be big for them. Like,
that's a name. I did not know that. Because it's been a little over a year since he
that got announced today. He's supposed to start rehabbing, and the way Verlander's recovering, he might get his 4 or 5 rehab starts in before Verlander's back. So just keep an eye on that situation, and that could be the next person in Houston.
Could be stash worthy, to be honest. Luis Garcia was good before.
The way pitching's gone this year, it could be. It really could be. It's then again, we're looking at all these pitchers missing time. Looking at Bobby Miller, looking at Walker Buehler. Looking at some other guys, Garrett Cole, like Blake Snell. Like, I know that wasn't arm related, but let's just look at the reality of the situation. It's been a rough go for guys that used to be really good and returning right away. So keep that in mind as well.
Agreed.
Starling Marte. This was a fun one. It dropped on Monday that Starling Marte is dealing with like this knee, it's like bone bruise situation where the doctor said shut him down for 15 days before he's like starts building back up. The Mets were off on Monday, so they put him on the IL on Tuesday. Marte goes to the IL. He'll be out at least 4 weeks, they said, at least 4 weeks. He's shut down for 2 weeks to reevaluate, do all that kind of stuff. So at least 4 weeks for Starling Marte. And then Ben Gamel got recalled, but Tyrone Taylor started on Tuesday night against a right-handed pitcher. We all remember Tyrone Taylor as a kind of quote-unquote lefty guy, lefty specialist type guy. He could get regular run, and that's one of those guys, at least in 15s, that could give you some power. Like, he's like Kevin Pillar, but better. So something like kind of that ilk is what I'm looking at.
And yeah, Tyrone Taylor for his career actually hits righties better than lefties. Has a 745 OPS against righties and a 717 against lefties. Like Tyrone Taylor, I will, and not because Tyrod Taylor is my favorite college football player of all time, but Tyrone Taylor, I'm still a sucker for. Only 30 years old, has I think a ton of pop. He just never has been able to play either with the Mets or with Milwaukee, his previous stop. I hope this is this is it for Tyrone Taylor and he can get some run. I don't know. There's really no other options. Like Ben Gamble, come on. Like that is not a starter for the Mets. I certainly hope not. So monitor Tyrone Taylor's usage over these next few weeks or few days, leading up to Fab, because I think he's got the skills to be pretty sneaky in the outfield. Starling Marte, I don't know what to do with him, man, because
that's the big question.
You said at least a month, and this is a guy whose game is built on speed. Starling Marte is old.
Let's be easy with the old comments, huh? Come on.
He isn't old. I don't know how much he runs when he comes back. He's 35. He's not that old, but
it sucks. He's still hitting 278, 7 homers. I think that's kind of 38 runs, 38 RBIs, and 12 steals. Like he's playing well. Yeah, if he's not running, what are we really getting from Starling Marte? I agree with you there. 15s you got to hold. 12s,
12s. It's a tougher question.
I could see the dilemma come into play.
The 7, I didn't realize he had 7 homers. That's a nice, decent uptick in power with a 278 batting average. But yeah,
he's been solid. That's why it's a tough one. That was why I was hoping you're kind of on the same page with me on that one. Basically, 15s you got to hold for now. 12s, I'd wait for a little longer if you can. But if we hear about any sort of a setback, he's gone type scenario. That's how I would approach him. Like I could if would you add Chas McCormick this weekend in a 12 and drop Starling Marte?
Probably, assuming McCormick keeps playing every day.
Okay, well there we go. That answers that question. All right, Cincinnati Reds. Nick Lodolo goes to the IL with a blister on his throwing hand, of course, and so he'll be out for at least 2 weeks. They're hoping to have him back before the All-Star break. They said. I'm like, how bad is this blister? Is what I was wondering when the quote was like, "We're hoping by the All-Star break." So. It's the Reds. Probably no one's going to get called up worth taking a chance on, but just kind of sit back and hope Lodolo turns out to be okay.
Yeah, blisters are a fickle beast, man. Don't know if it's just going to linger, if it's going to go away, whatever. So Carson Spires is safe in the rotation. He's probably safe anyway. I know he's not your boy, but that is an option. I don't know who the Reds are going to pick up or not pick up, but call up for their 5th spot. They don't have many options, and given the home park, probably just best to stay away.
Yep, most definitely. Cincinnati Reds, we'll stick with them. TJ Friedl, just one thing after another, gets hit on the hand, gets hit here, gets hit there. Now he actually has a hamstring injury, but the just geniuses in the medical staff in Cincinnati, it was on Saturday, he had a kind of tweak in the hammy. They're like, he worked out before the game. He's good enough. He'll be okay. He can go. Well, he made it worse, and so now he's on the IL. He's going to miss 2 to 4 weeks. I'd imagine closer to the 4 weeks for TJ Friedl here, and that just expedites the problem with him. Is he's usually pretty good when he can play. That's the fun part, the when he can play part. So how are you approaching this? Because we talked before the show, is like Stuart Fairchild that exciting for you?
No. I mean, he runs. That's somewhat exciting. He's fast. I don't know how much he runs, but no, Stuart Fairchild is not doing it for me. It's
Levi Jordan, baby.
I honestly had no idea. Again, we were going over this before the show. Had not heard of 2 of the 4 on the Reds bench right now. I obviously have heard of Nick Martini and Luke Maile, but Levi Jordan and Levon Soto, nope. I don't know. It's been a tough year for the Reds, man. Even though they're kind of hanging.
They're hanging around.
We will talk about CES, but Michael C in the chat just mentioned the CES F up as well. The Reds training staff kind of bungled that one. So not great what's going on in Cincinnati.
Yeah, speaking of CES, he had surgery on his wrist because of the setbacks there, because the way they screwed that up. He's out for 3 months, basically out for the rest of the season. Unless something crazy happens, I don't expect to see him back this year. Nope. That'll be the end of CES's 2024 season, where there was such high expectations. And it makes me very concerned for next year, just because it feels like kind of how the Kirilloff thing with the wrist went forever. Like, how's that going to work? Obviously, we'll see. He might be different story, but time will tell on that one. And even as Dr. Doom says in the chat, did you see the clip of Hunter Green puking on the mound on Tuesday?
Yeah, that was bad.
There's stuff going around. Like I've seen Willie Beeman doing it in movies, but I expect football players like that. But
any given Tuesday, Hunter Green will be out there, and
apparently,
yeah, that was bad. I picked Hunter Green in DFS tonight, not knowing he would puke on the mound. So that didn't work out, obviously.
That was a rough go indeed.
Better than the rain delay that or the postponement between the Braves and Cardinals.
Yeah,
when it never even rained tonight.
Never rained. Two hours after the game was scheduled to start, they called it. Never rained. I had Kyle Gibson as my starter, so that was fun. So yeah, that's baseball, baby, baseball. Clayton Kershaw. I'm just gonna sit back. I almost don't even want to finish the sentence because it's like I had actual people asking me, should we start stashing Kershaw? And I'm like, no. Like that was just my thought. He made a rehab start at single A, looked good. I think he made a second rehab start at triple A, and now he's shut down for at least a week due to shoulder soreness. The Dodgers are quote unquote not concerned that he just needs more rest. I'm sorry. No, like I'd be heavily concerned about Clayton Kershaw's shoulder right here. So he's shut down for at least a week.
Yeah, and that's a weird thing to say because starting pitchers, yes, they get a bullpen in between starts, but they kind of go almost a week without throwing anyway. So I don't know. Feels like some information control coming out of LA. And if Clayton Kershaw was on one of your potential stash lists, he should no longer be on said list. I think at this point, best case or that from LA's perspective is that they get Kershaw back in the playoffs, and that should be their goal, which for us means, forget about him for now.
Yep, most definitely. Chris Paddock, he hit the IL with right arm fatigue. That doesn't ever make people warm and fuzzy. There was a time when Paddock was a popular ad potentially, and things were good. Now not so much as he was kind of rough towards the end. He might have been dealing with this for a couple starts now, but he's going to go to the IL for a bit. Kind of a wait and see approach there, but I'm pretty sure you could probably drop Chris Paddock if you're still rostering him.
Yeah, I was feeling all good about Paddock last week. He had a two-step verse. He had a dream two-step at home against the Rockies, and then at home against the A's. Dominated the Rockies, got the win, and then just got smoked by the A's. 2 innings, 5 runs, no Ks. One more start at Oakland. Saw him again. Didn't get as smoked, but yeah, I think kind of think this is just like a load management thing for the Twins.
That's kind of what I thought, because we talked about earlier in the year with him, but it did get announced, as Michael Tarley says here in the chat, Festa is going to make his debut on Thursday for the Minnesota Twins, their stud pitching prospect. So that'll be one to watch. If he pitches well, that could be a fun fab acquisition this weekend, because there's a few pitchers that I think in that Twins rotation that might need a little breather, or a 6-man might be a smart move going forward. Because I think Paddock will be out. He's obviously out 2 weeks, the 15-day IL. But you look at the rest of that staff. Joe Ryan, like Simeon Woods-Richardson would be a dude I could see needing a breather. So definitely a spot for Festa could open up in a big way.
Yeah, and David Festa, AAA this year, 87 Ks in 59 innings. That'll do. And the walks really aren't, 24 walks in 59 innings. That's not bad either. So yeah, an 87-24 strike out to walk, 3.77 ERA in AAA. There may be a Fab Fiesta. It's coming. We will get that look. He'll pitch this week, right? You said?
Yeah, he pitches Thursday. Thursday, so it could be a fun one come Sunday if he sticks around. I'll give Uncle Ted a nod here. He's been mentioning this name for the last 3 weeks. Landon Knack is sticking in the rotation right now for the Dodgers. We were wondering if it'd be a 1-start deal because they had off days. No, he's going to stick in the 5-man rotation with the Dodgers right now, according to manager Dave Roberts. Then again, Dave Roberts has been known to fib once in a while, but Landon Knack looks to be good to go for at least a few rounds before Walker Buehler comes back, whenever that is, because there's no set time for that just yet.
And even this is where you want to go skill over role. Like I wouldn't be surprised if something's wrong with Bobby Miller and he goes back on the IL. I mean, he only threw 2 innings tonight, did not look good at all.
Nope.
James Paxton feels like a ticking time bomb. I'm surprised he's made it this far. So, we'll give Uncle Ted some credit there with Landon Knack.
And then the last bit of news I have here, until something else happens, probably in the next half an hour. Patrick Sandoval is going to have Tommy John surgery for the Angels. Like, he's been so up and down this year. Looked really good at times, really rough at times. Now he's having surgery. I will say this: Roansy Contreras is getting called up to start on Wednesday. That was announced on Tuesday. He'll be getting the start. People are clamoring for Reed Detmers to come back. I don't know why, but they are. And then also I want to mention Chase Silseth on Tuesday was activated from the IL and sent to AAA. So he was healthy and could have made the start on Wednesday. But they're going Roansy Contreras first. I think we might see a revolving door in Anaheim here pretty soon.
I think so. Detmers had I don't think has been in AAA long enough to try and quote unquote get right. Silseth did not pitch well in his rehab,
not at all.
And so that's why he's still in AAA. So yeah, it could be a revolving door. Roansy Contreras, man, that's a name. How did he even get on the Angels?
I have no idea. I'm guessing he got DFA'd and they picked him up.
That would be my guess too. I'm not that. Given what we saw for the once promising Roansy Contreras. The way things unraveled late in the Pittsburgh days, I would like to see him do something before I go there.
Yep, totally agree. I'll sit back and watch. And if you're playing DFS, they play during the day, and the A's they got value with Soderstrom and company. Might not be a bad little small stack. Just throw it.
Actually, of that group, I like Silseth the most. If he can get things straight, like Silseth was one of my favorite off-season. He's going like right next to Jack Flaherty, and I picked more Silseth than Flaherty.
Me too.
Me too. But Silseth, like, he was very attractive to me in draft season, and I have a lot of him. And nothing has changed in 2 starts with Silseth and 2 starts that he's made. So, hope he can get right. And if so, I think it's a decent sneaky ad.
Yeah, and you mentioned Flaherty there. I didn't put it on the list, but just if anybody didn't notice, he's getting his start. He was originally scheduled to start on Wednesday. He's getting it pushed back till Friday or Saturday just to give him more rest. We've seen them do that once already this year, so I'm not concerned in that aspect. Just kind of keep an eye on that. So if you're playing daily leagues, not starting on Wednesday. Just keep that in mind. Dr. Doom mentioned this when we kind of joked about it or talked about it briefly, kind of tongue in cheek. Garrett Cole's velocity was down. He threw hard in the first, and then after the game, Aaron Boone said Cole was intentionally throwing like 92. And the home runs he gave up were on 92-mile-an-hour fastballs. Garrett Cole doesn't intentionally throw low. Like, right. I know he's coming back from his injury, but stop bringing guys back if they can't pitch. Like, that's how you get more injuries.
Garrett Cole.
But that's how you get more injuries, though. Like, this is how it happens. If they can't go full go, this is how they hurt themselves. So hopefully they're being honest with us here, but that didn't make me feel warm and fuzzy either.
Nor did the 4 walks and no strikeouts.
Yeah.
So it was a homer fest for the Mets. Your Flaherty comment's interesting because he got pushed back from. It's actually probably a good thing.
It's a good thing.
He's going to face the Phillies, and now he gets the Angels. So
yeah, no,
that works.
When they announced it like on Sunday night, I think, and I'm like, oh man. And then I looked at the schedule. I'm like, oh, okay, we're good because I'm starting him anyway. So let's go.
Starting him anyway. Maybe you don't get a 2-step next week now, but like probably whatever. Probably the next week you do or something. But yeah, that actually helps, Jack.
Yep, 100% with you there. I think that's all the news. I think that's it. So if you want to Bloomboard this Bloomfield, let's do it.
Let's do it. Let's bring it up. Hopefully it's visible enough for the YouTube crowd. We did this exercise around the halfway point last year, so I figured we'd bring it back. I thought that was a pretty good episode, and it's that time of year where, surprisingly, we are already halfway through the season. Teams are playing like their 80th-ish games right now, so we are there. We are halfway there as the tune goes.
Oh.
We don't need that Bubba. No singing. We've got the year-to-date versus projected risers and fallers here. So on the left side in green are the projected rise. And when I say projected, I pulled projections from Steamer and the BatX and just kind of average them together. And we'll talk through kind of what we believe. The risers are typically your guys who, quite honestly, have sucked in the first half, but given track records or whatever, their projections like them to rebound in the second half. And then on the right side here, our red list is our projected fallers, and you'll see from a bunch of the names that we talk about are guys who I don't want to say have overperformed, but have fared quite well in the first half, and the projections like them to regress back to their more normal skill level and baseline. So that's what we've got. We've got 15 risers, 15 fallers. I doubt we'll get to all of them. Got some nice listener questions on some of them, so we'll get to those as well. But that's what we're looking at here, man.
I love it. I always love looking at positive and negative regression. It's really a great thing to talk about in the world of fantasy baseball. So I'm looking forward to this one because in hindsight, we'll look at it and go, duh, like that's just how it's going to go. But we know
Yeah.
that that's not always the case. It's not always that simple. Like there's
Right.
going to be reasons behind other factors potentially leading to some of this. So let's have some fun ones here. We'll start on the I guess the guys that have been playing poorly and expect to play better in the second half on the green side of things here. And let's just start with the guy that I wrote up as a faller in this week's Risers and Fallers column.
That's why he homered. That's why he homered today.
Went deep on Tuesday. Yep. Ryan knows the drill on this one. George Springer hitting 188 this year, 5 homers, 559 OPS. It gets much worse than that if you really dig into it, folks. It's been pretty brutal for George Springer. Second half or the rest of the season projections, I was at second half because the second half of the season. 250, 9 homers, 734 OPS. So first, I'll let you give some thoughts on this, and I'm going to comment also. But what are you thinking here on George Springer? Because I have fielded a lot of George Springer questions lately.
I mean, honestly, and like I know Joe Arico's in the chat. He's not going to want to hear this because I think Joe thinks George Springer is cooked. So that is within the range of outcomes here is George Springer, who is getting up there, has had a lot of reps on that body over his career. There is a chance that this just continues to decline. And that is the aging curve. I think there's still something left with George Springer. I don't see too much of a difference, at least on the skills that I like to focus in on the most. There's no difference in strikeout rate. There's no difference in whiff rate for George Springer from last year to this year. And the reason why I'm referencing last year, that was George Springer, like one of his best years, first 2020 year, hit 258. There is no change in hard hit rate. And he's a perfect 8 for 8 on the base pass. So the speed is still there. The batting average is way down because of BABIP. This is a guy who consistently has a 290 BABIP. That is 215. 215 this year, Bubba. Like that is disgusting. The only change that I've seen with George Springer is a few more ground balls, 52% ground ball rate, which it's an 8-point jump in ground ball rate. It's sizable. Mm-hmm. But you could I could even make the case that with more ground balls, you'd think the BABIP and the batting average would be higher because those go for hits more than fly balls do. So I think George Springer, I'm not going to say he's going to be fine, but I don't think he's cooked. I think we get a mild bounce back from George Springer in the second half.
Well, I agree that a lot of ground balls lead to higher BABIP, but that requires you to hit the ball hard. He has a 34% hard hit rate and like 6% barrel rate on the season. So that's not going to help. And the barrel rate will be down because of all the ground balls and not hitting it hard.
What was his hard hit rate the year before, though?
Let me check. I was just looking at this season's game logs. I'm guessing you're going to tell me it's pretty close.
It's pretty much the same.
Yeah. So, but okay, let's have fun with this. So last year he was remember this the first year he played like a full season, and now he's been banged up a little bit this year. He's missed a lot of games. I think he's hurt, to tell you the truth. I think that's part of the problem with George Springer. And the other thing I'm going to ask you, does a 250 projection with 9 home runs and a 734 OPS scream fantasy value for the second half of the season to you?
If you throw the 8 or 9 steals on top of it, which is probably this, I don't have the stolen base projection on here, but like, yeah, over a half season, that's almost 2020 at 250. Like that's what he did last year when people were happy with his performance. So yeah, I would say that's a pretty, if George Springer hits 250 with 9 home runs and let's just say 9 steals the rest of the way, I think that's pretty good. It's 2020 season over a full season.
Now, if you're in a 12-team or shallower league, are you still starting George Springer?
Starting him?
I'm going to ask you a lot of the questions I've been getting.
What's this interrogation here?
I'm just giving the listeners some context.
Probably not starting him, but I'm not cutting bait yet.
I have given 10-team shallower. I said you can feel free to move on. Is the way I looked at it. 12 teams, I understand if, like, say you're an NFBC and you're out of spots to stash guys, he's on the chopping block for me. Like there are outfielders I'd rather take a chance on Springer at this point in the year. I guess I'm also spite because I have a couple shares of George Springer and it's been absolutely horrific. I'm kind of in the Joe Rico side of the camp here.
You sound hurt, Bubba.
I feel like the Joe Rico side of things. So I'm kind of moving on from Springer. This one, if he turns it around, kudos. I'm just not feeling optimistic on this one.
All right, we disagree. That's good. For what it's worth, George Springer in NFBC 12 teamers is 92% rostered, 75% started. Side quest for tonight's episode. Let's try and get a rest of season beer bet. George Springer versus somebody who we come across. Let's see. And if anyone in the chat has ideas there, George Springer versus, feel free to throw those out.
Oh, I got a few for you. I'm already looking at, so we'll have some fun.
All right.
We don't need to talk about Tim Anderson.
No,
I really don't think we need to talk about Andrew Benintendi unless you're believing these second half projections at 262, 6 and 710. I am just Benintendi is just no. I saw a great tweet. He went 0 for 4 with like a line out, a pop out, a fly out, and a strikeout, and someone said he hit for the Benintendi cycle.
That's pretty good.
It's phenomenal. So I'm nowhere to be found on this one. But if you had something good to say about Andrew Benintendi, I'll let you have the floor on that one.
No, I don't.
Yeah, I don't either. Captain Jack, I am a fan of this if you're okay losing batting average because he's hitting 172, 6 homers, 559 OPS. Projections 218 to 13 homers, though. That's the thing. Mm-hmm. And with Captain Jack, when you're starting him, it's like when we do our fab and we say, hey, the Pirates are facing 5 of 6 righties or whatever. That's the weeks. It's Captain Jack week. Otherwise, you're not playing Captain Jack. And if people get annoyed by me saying Captain Jack, well, sorry. But 13 home runs, like I can actually believe that from Sawinski because he can do that. So I like this projection. Just know you're not religiously starting him. He is a bench guy that you put in and out of your lineup.
Yes, agreed. I am. So Sawinski is like just super streaky. Like he could hit 13 homers in a month.
Yep.
I wouldn't be totally surprised. He could go Anthony Santander on us and do something like that. But so far, what we've seen from Sawinski, it's been awful, dude. It's been a 30% strikeout rate. The barrel rate's been cut in half. He only has 9 barrels in 210 plate appearances. I get that this is this can be a streaky dude and he can go off on a barrel fest. I still think the power that Sawinski showed in 22 and 23 is still there. It just has not surfaced at all in 24. So I agree with you, man. I think Sawinski for now you're just kind of using as a streamer in right hand heavy weeks for Pittsburgh.
Yeah, and he went back to AAA for a bit too. So
yep.
That'll be interesting. His ground ball rate's gone up this year. So and people have talked about it. He's striking out less, more ground balls. He's made a change at the plate. I think it's time to change back, Captain. Just go jock jams and sell out. That's all you need to do. Just sell out, hit 200 with 20 home runs in the second half, which he literally could do. It wouldn't surprise me. So make it happen. Jake Berger, we've talked about this before. I wrote him up as a follower this week. 213, 6 homers, 586 OPS, but he's projected for 247 and 13. I think he's still hurt. That's the bottom line. The one optimistic thing I will say that really opened my eyes when I put him down as a follower last week because he was so bad, he still is crushing the baseball. His quality of contact's great, and he's still hitting a ton of fly balls right now. So it feels like it might be getting close. I just think it's health-wise right now.
Yeah, I agree. I think this is for someone's power to just completely fall off like this, like it has for Berger. You kind of have to blame the health. It's also, I mentioned this with Springer, so I have to do it with Berger. It's another huge spike in ground ball rate. The big man's hitting 53% ground balls. You don't want that. And again, that could be injury induced as well. So yeah, I agree. I think something's not right with Berger, and he did go on. What was it, a intercostal strain or something?
Yeah, he had like an oblique strain, yeah.
Yes, it was, and missed. He missed 3 weeks from April 15th to May 6th. But as we all know, stuff can linger, and I think it's lingering with Jake Berger. So you can take it two sides of this. Is maybe our guy takes the All-Star break off, and he won't be an All-Star, even on the Marlins, takes the All-Star break off and gets healthy for that second half. And if we have a healthy Jake Berger, I totally buy that projection. I think the projection is assuming a healthy Jake Berger. Do we know if we'll get healthy Jake Berger? I'm not going to sit here and pretend to know that. So it's kind of a flip of the coin for me.
Yeah, and like when I did the followers, I just looked at the week by week, but I just pulled up like his month of June. It's 47% ground ball, 49% fly ball. So the fly balls are improving. There's just a 9% home run to fly ball, which is rough. But still a lot of ground balls. Don't get me wrong.
Dude, that means he's hit like one line drive in June.
He has a 4% line drive rate, yes. But what I love to see is where I was going with this. In the month of June, 15% barrel, 47% hard hit. So he like the quality of contact that we've always loved about Jake Berger. It's coming. It's still there. So I think it's just more of a can he get the fly balls from 49 to like 55 even or something like that? That could change everything to get closer to his projection, I have a feeling. So there'll be a guy we have a listener question on later, Taylor Ward. A lot of similarities, it feels like, with Berger and Ward. So I think we got something going in that one. Corbin Carroll, the conundrum, known as Corbin Carroll, 211, 2 homers in the so far this season, 261 with 8 in the second half projected wise. I'm at a loss. We've talked about Carroll so much, and every time you think he's turning a corner, here it is, and it's been a little better of late. But, man, I just can't put my finger on what is going on with Corbin Carroll.
Agree, a little better of late, 267 with 5 bags over the last month, but no homers in 106 plate appearances. Like you said, 2 homers all year. 2 homers in 325 plate appearances. For Corbin Carroll, we've talked about this a lot with the shoulder, and it certainly seems like that is a plausible explanation for what is going on for someone with so much youth, pedigree, and promise to just fall off like this. Do you have a good comment from Michael C. in the chat regarding Carroll? Whether it's a flatter swing or something else, he is pulling fly balls less than half as often with a lower exit velocity. And Joe in the chat, the only homers for Corbin Carroll. This is a good pull. Are at Coors and Great American Small Park.
Well done, Joe. So I got a fun one for you because I hate to keep saying I literally just wrote the article today, so it's on my mind. I wrote about a faller that just hit his second home run of the year. Do you know who that is? Because it'll match Corbin Carroll's home run total.
A faller that just hit his second home run of the year.
Yeah, on Monday. Vinny Pasquantino.
No, that's not right. I don't think. I think Vinny P has like 8, something like that.
Oh, he has 8. Never mind. Let me pull up the article again. Who the heck was it? I thought it was Vinny P. Maybe it was the second in the month.
Click edit.
No, it's all good. We don't or is it Adam Duvall? No, whatever. I'll figure it out later. There was one guy I was looking at. Maybe it was a different article. Only 2 home runs, which I was like, oh, that was a rough one. It wasn't Corbin Carroll. I know that for a fact. So there's some guys that are very, very poorly executed these days.
Now I'm gonna hunt MLB Homer account.
Yeah. All right. Next up here, we mentioned Corbin Carroll. Don't really talk about Montero. Kyber Ruiz has been hurt a lot. J-Rod. This is what everybody wants to know about. J-Rod. Julio Rodriguez, 257, 7 homers, been massively disappointed. Like we started the show, and Anthony Gialdi said, another first rounder hits the IL, and Fernando Tatis. A lot of us probably wish Corbin Carroll hit the IL, so you just bench him and not take the suck. J-Rod's been better than that, but what you were expecting with the top 3 or 4 pick, this has not been the case. So what are we thinking with Julio Rodriguez, whose projection is 272 and 12 in the second half?
First off, just like so we were talking about first round injuries at the top of the show. This is the worst first round. I'll probably do a board on this and tweet it out. It's like the worst first round that I can remember in recent years. Just so many either injuries or busts like this. We just talked about Carroll and now Julio, that usually like a third return first round value and like 2/3 are up in the top 2 or 3 rounds. I think we're going to be well off that pace this year. Julio, for me, like the power is just is not there. The swing looks, because I get to watch a decent amount when I am on my laptop with a VPN connected. Hopefully the federal authorities aren't listening to the show, but Julio's swing, like it's I don't know, it's a wild swing this year. And it's just, he's just not hitting for power. The saving grace is the running game is still there. Like he's still going to probably steal over 30 bags. We're just all waiting for the power to come, and it might come. Like Julio in the second half last year was one of the best hitters in baseball. Just carried teams. Yep. I mean, that could happen again. We just have not seen it at all. I mean, I don't know what you do about it. Like, I don't know what, if in a trading league, what's that discount? Is it 80 cents on the dollar, 90 cents? I'd still hold pretty strong and just hope it turns around.
Yeah, I'm just still holding him because he's, as far as we know, healthy. And as long as he's healthy, you mentioned the second half we know he can go on just insane runs. So I'm just holding out hope. Like I have a share in one of my 3 OCs and I haven't thought about benching him. It's just because I know if he
Yeah.
ever got it going, he's going to crush.
Yeah.
If you're in a trading league, I'd try to trade for him if the manager's disgruntled and unhappy with it. See what you can do. Like, I'd be all for it. It might not work out, but it's definitely one of those guys you can try to take advantage of in the second half, because if he even meets the projection at 272 and 12, it's amazing. I think we've seen him hit over 300 in a stretch like this. Like, he could go 320 with like 10, 15 steals, and no one would be shocked. Like, he could put some numbers together that could win you leagues, like Ryan was saying. So if you can find a way to get J-Rod, I'd be interested. Just don't overpay, obviously, because it's not great right now.
And you just trust that the track record shows, and more often than not, the track record wins out over like a bad half year. Michael in the chat also kind of noticed the same thing. Crazy unbalanced swing. I think he's pressing. I think if Seattle makes a move to get another bat, that might take some pressure off of Julio, because that offense is god awful. Yet they're still in first place by a good bit.
And pitching staff, baby.
I know it's been awesome, but I think there is a lot of pressure on Julio to be the guy, and he has not been.
All right, I figured out the guy. I looked it up. It was from a different article on Monday. Nathaniel Lowe has 2 home runs.
Oh, good pull.
I knew it was a lefty first baseman. I'm like, hey, and it was Nathaniel Lowe. I know he hasn't been good. I know he was injured for a while, but only 2 home runs. I was like, whoo, because I dropped him this past week. So that's what it was. Like,
so it was on Monday, because I was like, I found 2 guys with their second homer yesterday, and it was Spencer Horwitz, who had hit 2 yesterday.
2 in one game. He hit 2 in one game.
And Zach McKinstry.
Yeah. No, Lowe did not home run Monday. I realized I was wrong. Vinny P did home run Monday. That was his 8th of the year. And he's been disappointed. He hit like 211 or something. It's been dreadful. All right, let's keep going on this one. We will talk a Royal, though. I want to talk about MJ Melendez, because a lot of us, myself included, gave up on him, dropped him. We moved on already. But there's a lot of people talking around these days between Twitter and podcasts and everything saying it's time to add him back. It's time to get back in. He's still playing every day. All these good things. And, he's hitting 179 with 8 homers on the year. The second half or the rest of the season is 238 and 11. And I will give him this much. Since June 14th, so about, 10 games probably, give or take. Let me pull it the exact one. We don't want May 14th. June 14th, he's hitting 321 with a home run, still walking a ton. He's hit safely in 7 of the 10 games. So I guess there's optimism that MJ's figuring out. Because one thing we've always liked, I'm not going to speak for you, but I know we've talked about, the quality of contact's usually been pretty good from MJ Melendez. Mm-hmm. So this could be a guy to keep an eye on going forward.
Agreed. There's just so much swing and miss. Because the power is technically kind of been there. It's still a double-digit barrel rate. He's got 16 barrels, 8 home runs. The BABIP is killing him. 211 BABIP is awful. So this is probably someone who should be hitting probably what he did last year, which is 235. The thing for me is I never really, I don't know. I wasn't a huge MJ Melendez. He got a ton of hype this draft season. Last year, he only hit 16 homers, 6 steals, and hit 235 and 600 plate appearances like that. I don't think the skills last year were all that great either. So I'm still out on MJ Melendez. I wasn't very in to begin with. The only saving grace is this dude has dirt on the Kansas City front office or manager or whatever, and continues to somehow play every day despite I don't know how good the glove is, but despite a 248 on base percentage. How do you play every day and have a 248 on base percentage? That's crazy.
That's rough, especially when in previous years his OBP was one of his biggest assets, and that's disappeared. So I dropped him a while back. I haven't added him back yet, but someone to keep an eye on, I guess. 15s, he should still be locked up, but 12s, we'll see.
Yeah.
Torkelson, Suarez, Bichette, Lux, McNeil. Anybody else you'd like to talk about on this list? We can talk Bichette. I see you grinning already if you want. But or we can move on to the other side of things.
I won't rub in your bad Bo Bichette call. Smirking because Torque double dong today.
Yeah, he's playing well in AAA. It's a great for fantasy stats when they play well in AAA.
Of course, those always count. Double, I heard.
Yes.
Wouldn't surprise me that Torque is back up very soon. I feel like he's done his time in AAA, and B, given what we saw in the second half from Torque last year, would not surprise me at all to see him go on a heater. So I'm pretty high on Spencer Torkelson. I don't what is his roster rate? He's 51% rostered in 12 teamers. 16% started still. 12 teamers on the NFBC.
Bless the OCs. Bless the OCs, man. It's a beautiful thing.
That's not great. But those 2 homers did not count for those 2 teams. But I'm pretty high on a Torque rebound because I don't think it'll cost you much to find out, So,
well, just like my Fallers columns, I can help you because I did drop Torque in one league this past week, and then he goes in double dongs in AAA. So there you go. I was trying to stash him. Injuries did not allow me to stash him any longer. So that's the beauty of no ILs in the OCs, or not OCs. This was might have been a Bubba in the Bloom League, actually. I don't know. It was one of those leagues. So go have some fun with that. Stephen Crawford makes a fun one in the chat. Or maybe if Bichette cuts his hair like Vladdy did, he'll start hitting better too. That's fair because
I must have missed that. Did
Vladdy chopped off a lot of it? Yeah, and he's crushing it right now.
Been hitting.
Yep.
Did we find a George Springer? What about George Springer, MJ Melendez?
That's close.
Rest of season.
I was gonna say George Springer, Jake Berger.
I'll take that.
George will run, but Berger won't, so George lets him more home runs.
What?
I guess pretty fair.
Yeah. Let's do that. Yeah. If you're up for it.
Yeah, Berger versus Springer. Let's go.
Okay. All right. I'm putting it down.
There's a noon on the line.
All right.
So that'll be a fun one. All right, let's talk about the negative side of things. Guys that have been crushing it to start the season, and the projections have them slowing things down in the second half. Let's have some fun with Brice Turang. I think we kind of all expected this one, so this might be a quick one. But Brice hitting 289, 5 homers, all the stolen bases, all of them. And now the rest of the season projections have Brice Turang hitting 252 with 5 homers and still more steals. Like, I'd still be cool with 252 and 5 and all the steals with Brice Turang. But any thoughts on this? Because I think we could all expect some regression here.
Yeah, and these boards are ordered by OPS, so the projections from a pure hitter standpoint are obviously not going to be too kind to Brice Turang just because there is no power there, but obviously does not factor in stolen bases. And so, like, Brice Turang already has 26 this year. I don't see why he wouldn't keep running. So, like, Brice Turang, even though, I don't think he keeps hitting. No, I don't think he keeps hitting 289. I don't think he hits another 5 home runs in the second half like he did in the first half. But I think the stolen base production will buoy a lot of Brice Turang's second half value. So I'm not too down on Turang the rest of the way.
No, I'm with you on that one. We'll stick with his teammate Christian Yelich because we don't need to talk about Bryce Harper. That's pretty.
Yeah, okay. There are a few. There are a few guys who are projected to regress from God levels to mere mortal levels, so we don't need to talk
so we'll be good there. But Christian Yelich is a fun one because he's having a great year. 317, 7 homers, 15 steals, missed good amount of time with the back injury, so still putting up good numbers. The rest of season projections having 268 with 8 homers, so quite the drop off in batting average, kind of back to his career norm is what that kind of drops him down to.
Yep.
But still, doubling up his homers, and you look at the rest of season steals projections, we're talking 20-25 on the season. So should we be at all concerned with this decrease in the projection?
I think the decrease in the projection is honestly right on. Like, I think Christian Yelich isn't a 317 hitter. Is he? I think he's more 270, 280. The projections have him back to his career norm, basically. Yeah, that's what most projections are going to do.
And that's what I was told regression does, goes back to the norm.
Goes back to the norm. But I just don't see anything like there's been a slight improvement in Yelich's strikeout rate, but nothing crazy. There's been a major bump in Christian Yelich's BABIP, and it's just the kind of those classic indicators that say, he's not going to keep up threes. I mean, it's really damn hard to keep hitting 317. But yeah, I think Yelich is like a 280 guy with 15 more bags. I think he's 15 for 16 on the base pass. So
very efficient.
That is awesome. And yeah, another, I don't know, what's the projection say for home runs? 8, another 8 homers. So that would mean a 15-30 season for Christian Yelich with a 270, 280 batting average in the second half. Like that's, yes, that's falling, but that's still pretty damn useful.
Jose Miranda sounds about right. Joey Ortiz probably pretty close. I want to hit on Masyn Winn because this has been a fun one. Leading off for the Cardinals now, hitting 298 on the season with 4 home runs and 8 stolen bases. Rest of season projections have him for 252 and 5, and most projections have him 9 to 10 stolen bases. So now we're talking 10-20 with a 270 overall average on the season. Seems about right, but this is one of the fun ones. He's 22, so the drop down to 257. Right. Who says he's not better than that? That like young kid projections are tough. That's kind of wanted to bring it up. We talk about this all the time.
And that's one of your, I don't want to speak for you, call it a pet peeve, but
it is a pet peeve of mine. Yes.
All right. That is one of the areas I think, and I've come around to this, just kind of talking with you, talking through it as we talk through players over the months or whatever, that projections can be slow on these young guys. I don't want to say prospects anymore, but even first, second year MLB players. Like I would absolutely take for Masyn Winn, take the over on a 252 batting average. I think there's been some pretty legit skill growth. It's someone who can run, who's fast. I don't think he hits 298 again in the second half, but like 270, 275, something like that seems reasonable. I'm not sure about the power stroke though. Like only has 5 barrels in 270 plate appearances. That's not great for Masyn Winn. And he kind of has he's only got a 37% ground ball rate. So he's not putting the ball on the ground. He's lifting it. And I don't know if you want to lift it if you're Masyn Winn. I think you want to keep that thing on the ground, Yelich style, and get on base and run.
Yeah, the power has been surprising. I remember Matt Thompson in the preseason on my Cardinals preview said Masyn Winn is a good hitter. The power is not there yet because he's 22. Like that's just the way I got to realize he's still young. So it's been a surprise, and it does help that you get those hot, humid days in St. Louis, as Lance Lynn can attest to. Things change in that ballpark. So, hey, they have a doubleheader on Wednesday, and it's supposed to be like I think close to 100 there. That's going to be some fun baseball between the Braves and the Cardinals, folks. That's going to be good.
Lynn pitching? No, he's not.
No, but it's a doubleheader, so there's going to be some players that are going to lose about the catchers probably lose 30 pounds tomorrow, 25, 30 pounds. That's going to be nuts watching those guys sweat it out in a double dip. Like the umps should be able to wear shorts in this game. All right, C.J. Abrams. Like I wasn't going to bring this up, but I know he's kind of been fluctuating is the way I'll say it. He started out red hot. It's cooled down a bit, hitting 275, 12 home runs. They'll seem like they came really early in the year. Still has 13 steals. You look at the rest of the season projections with C.J. 258 and 9. He hit 245 last year, so 258 still an improvement on his normal success rates. Power would put him at 21 homers on the year, which is higher than last year's steal. I guess the steals are down so much from last year. That'd be the big concern. But when we're looking at this projection, how are you feeling about C.J. Abrams? Because red hot, one of the best fantasy players in the game, cooled down mightily.
Kind of. Been very much an up and down for C.J. Abrams, but over the last month, 5 homers, 5 steals, hitting 312. So he has come back. He started hot. There were some April victory laps as part of that deal, and then I want to say late April, May was pretty rough for C.J. Abrams, but he has turned it around lately. Yeah, the complex, like if you would have said C.J. Abrams would be hitting 275 with 12 home runs in the first half of the season, you'd be like, hell yeah, sign me up for that. But I can't believe it's only come with 13 stolen bases. And the interesting thing is Washington runs more than any other team in baseball, and Abrams even runs himself. Like his stolen base attempt rate was 43% last year. That means when he gets on base, roughly almost half the time he's running to second. That's only dropped to 34%. Like C.J. Abrams has a full green light, but his success rate is 62%. Like that is awful last year. It was 92% last year. So C.J. Abrams is getting thrown out a ton on the base pass, and that I don't really understand. And I don't really know what to think about that for the second half. I would like to think that he's got the wheels and he's got the freedom. He will figure it out, and the bags will come in the second half. It's just kind of a weird stat line for Abrams.
Yeah, very, very weird. So that's very, very much there. And like as Michael C says, maybe he's just a good hitter. I agree. I was all over him last year for his cost. I had so much C.J. Abrams. Like he was in all my gladiators. That shows how much I liked him. But I didn't pay for the cost this year, and we'll see if that's a fault of mine or not.
And I mean, he wasn't a good hitter when he came up, but he was 21 years old.
Yep.
And last year was his age 22 season. Like, yeah, you're probably not going to be a good major league hitter when you're that young. And to what you were just saying about Masyn Winn, I think fully still applies to C.J. Abrams, who's still just 23 years old. So, like,
I agree.
If I'm taking the glass half full approach, this is someone who has improved as a hitter this year. If he can then figure out whatever's going on with the bases, like on the base paths, this is a first round talent for me.
Would you trade Julio Rodriguez for C.J. Abrams?
That's a good question. I would take CJ Abrams right now over Julio.
I think I would too.
That's a good question. That's a good
Yeah,
question.
for a combination of reasons. Abrams is actually producing at the moment and should, knock on wood, still produce. Plus, middle infield compared to the availability of outfielders out there, I'd take my chances there on that one. So that's
And
one.
I think Abrams could go off on stolen bases
Exactly.
like he did last year. Where Julio, yeah, you'll get the bags. I don't think he could steal like 70, which is what many thought Abrams could do this year.
100%. Not going to talk about Tucker because we don't know when he's returning. Willi Castro is a fun one here. 271 average, 6 home runs on the season. Rest of the season projection is 247 and 6. In the month of June, Castro's hitting 286 with 2 homers and a stolen base, which has been great to see from Slick Willie. And he's playing pretty much every day at second base because Julian's back in the minors. So obviously playing time will have a determination on this because like Steamer has him at 57 games the rest of the way. The Bad Axe has him at 58. Zips has him at 70. So it depends on how many games he plays for one. But they all still have him about the same home run and batting average total. So what's your thoughts on this one?
I actually agree with the projection here. I think Willie, I think Slick Willie, as you call him, is a little over his batting average skis. I don't think he's a 271 hitter. He's got like a 350 BABIP this year and still strikes out a good amount, 24%, with a good number of whiffs. So I do think this is more like a 250 bat. I'm curious. We don't have the stolen base projections up there, but I probably
for 10
for 10 more bags.
Yeah.
That's the one that's the hardest because like this is someone who just randomly stole 33 last year. But I think the projection's right on. I think we've probably seen the best from Willi Castro this year. And I think the speed will still be there. I think the power will still be there, but I just think we won't see 270, which again is fine. This is someone you drafted either late or in like a draft and hold to just plug positions. And Willi Castro, from a playing time standpoint, is safe, and he'll continue to be versatile and both in position flexibility and in categories. So I can still like Willi Castro and also say that he's been a bit over his head so far.
That's very, very fair. Can't argue that one at all. Alec Bohm, this is a very entertaining one for me because on the first half of the season here, he's hitting 313, 9 home runs. He's got 4 steals, which is great. The rest of the season projections have him at 278 and 8. He's been a tale of like 3 months. It's 366, 243, 329, 4 homers, 1 homer, 4 homers. It's been just an up and down roller coaster from Alec Bohm, which makes you wonder, like, what are we actually getting in the second half of the season?
I like what I've seen from Alec Bohm like a lot this year. The power's ticked up quite a bit. Already has 22 barrels this year, 27 last year. So, and only 9 home runs on 22 barrels. Not going to do the math in my head, but that's not a great homer to barrel rate. So I would expect a few more bombs from Bohm coming up, and the uptick in power has not come at the expense of his strikeout rate. Bohm's not selling out for power. 14 actually has a career best strikeout rate, 14% strikeout rate. So is Alec Bohm a 313 hitter? No. What's the projection say again? I'm on the wrong. 278.
278, yeah.
That sounds about right, and I would take the over on 8 more home runs. I think Alec Bohm could go double digits on dongs in the second half.
I think I'm with you on that one. The last one I'm going to mention, and then if you want more, knock yourself out here. Talking about dongs, just dongs Martinez. JD Martinez is a guy that I've always been a fan of. I know the year started out slow because it took him a few extra weeks to get ready to get called up. Hitting 290 with 9 home runs on the season. And it's been pretty good. 294, 278, 306 in the month of June. 5 home runs in May, 4 home runs in June as he gets going, which has been good to see. But the projections have JD Martinez hitting 247 with 12 home runs. And I see 247 with a guy like JD Martinez, and I just find that so difficult to wrap my head around. Am I missing something here?
My guess, my semi-educated guess, is the projections are baking in like a pretty hard aging curve against JD Martinez.
That's rude.
36 years old, as you know, things start falling apart.
You're older than him, so just watch yourself there, buddy.
Things start falling apart. But so that's probably why the projections are down on JD. But he's looked so damn good.
Yeah.
Recently that like I'm not buying into the aging curve. Maybe I won't be as high on him next year when he's going to be 37, but like right now JD Martinez is healthy right now he's hitting the hell out of the ball. Already has 24 barrels in 209 play. Like, that's awesome. And the strikeout rate's really not that bad. It's always going to be elevated for JD Martinez, but no, he's not going to hit 290. But JD Martinez batting average the last 3 seasons, 286, 274, 271. Why can't he do that again? And I think he hits more than 12 home runs if he keeps his power up the rest of the way.
I'm 100% with you. I think it's the 270 plus guy, if not higher than that. 247 shocked me. The power's legit. The Mets team is clicking on all cylinders, like literally one of the best offenses in baseball over the last month. Just crushing everybody, especially lefties. So I don't see this stopping anytime soon, unless they like start fire selling and trade him. That's a possibility. That's been rumored around the streets these days, but I don't see that happening the way they've been playing of late. So I'm pretty high on JD on this list as well. Anybody else you'd like to hit on? We don't need to talk Judge. We don't need to talk Gunner, unless you want to talk Gunner. But Jock Jams is there. Tyler O'Neill. Those are a couple other guys we didn't talk about.
No, I think that covers it pretty well. One guy I kind of have a blind spot to, just because I don't have him anywhere, is Joey Ortiz.
Yeah,
on the Brewers, he's projected one of the bigger fallers to drop from 278 to 263 batting average, but with enough taking power, so not even that much. So just interesting to see on Joey Ortiz. Your guy Miranda's on here.
Yeah, I kind of expected that because he's been playing great, and part of these projections they factor in past performances, if I'm not mistaken.
Yep.
And it's been brutal for him in the past. That was kind of a discussion point this year, and that's why initially I wasn't in on Miranda. And then I picked him up in a lot of places. I've been very, very open about liking Miranda. And then when Royce Lewis came back, I was worried about playing time, and that shut down for a little bit. Now that's kind of creeped back up. Miranda's back to playing regularly and been very formidable for fantasy. And this goes back to the whole age thing. He's 25 years old. A dude that was a big-time power prospect at one point in time, didn't really put it all together, a couple chances in the big league level, but even in 2022, when it wasn't like ideal, still hit 268 with the Twins. So it wasn't horrific. He has had such a bad 2023 that I think people are just kind of like counting for him to come back to earth. And I don't think he's going to drop as much as they're thinking he's going to.
Yeah, Miranda's always been at least not always, but because he's only been in the majors for 2 years, but put bat on ball pretty well. Strikeout rate in the teens, and he's combined that with a nice uptick in power this year. So I do hear you on the playing time. Like, it has ticked that back up, but that's always going to be, until Royce Lewis gets hurt again. Always going to be something that's good in the back of my mind. But no, I'm starting to come around on Jose Miranda. A couple of quick comments in the chat. Gunner is a freaking stud. Yeah, so Gunnar Henderson is actually projected to be the biggest faller of any hitter in the second half, from first to second half. I just think the projections haven't caught up to the growth from Gunnar Henderson this year, so we'll leave that one as that. Adam in the chat. JD, hit tool looks good, but my man looks stiff on the base paths.
Yep.
Again, Bubba, as you would know, that's the age, so you just can't run.
Yeah. I get it. Well, that's because I'm also not just old, I'm fat. But
I can't run either. So
the stiffness in my back will prevent me from doing a lot of things certain mornings. So I get it. I get it. But yeah, no, JD, as long as he keeps hitting him over the fence, he can run as slow as he wants. So Take your time, big man. Take your time.
Agreed.
All right, got some listener questions here before we head on out on another episode of Bubba and the Bloom. Let's start with our buddy Dave Petroziello. Do you agree with the JD Martinez slander on this chart? I don't. No, we do not as well, my friend. We are with you on that one.
Agreed. That's not a whole lot of slander, but the
247s.
247s, yeah. We'll throw that in this.
That's a little category. Rough. Jeff Biddle in the chats or on the questions. Gavin Lux will come close to his rest of season projections, yay or nay? I didn't see Gavin on the list, was he?
He was no, he was on the list. Yeah, one of the risers, quote unquote, from he's the second at the bottom of the risers. So he's hitting 218 with 2 home runs with a 566 OPS, which is
not a whole lot of places to go but up on that one.
Agreed. So he's expected to quote unquote rise from 251 to 6 homers. So I mean, I could see Gavin Lux hitting that. It's just then if he hits that, you have a guy with 6 home runs and 251 batting.
Still not excited about him.
Not excited about it.
No, playing time still a massive question mark. Like if they liked Lux so much, they didn't need to trade for Kevin Biggio. That's a thought process in my mind.
Agreed.
So.
Agreed.
Stephen Crawford says, glad to see Julio on the green side. I just traded for him, so hopefully he has a big second half. There you go, Stephen. He's been joining us in the chat as well, so that's good to hear. Our buddy Michael Cicchini, who's also in the chat over here. I bet on elite young guys with little history to beat rest of season, Gunner and Abrams. Yep. Bohm is a different guy. Less chase as those swings down 5%. More and better contact. Does it seem real? You seem to be pretty optimistic on it.
I like what I see a lot from Alec Bohm. So
yeah, I took a couple chances late in draft season after we talked about him more and more. And those teams are doing much better than some of my other teams, so it makes sense. Tomorrow's Baseball Today says, yeah, good luck buying low on George Springer. Torque had a double dong tonight. Okay, thank you.
I still think you can buy low on George Springer, though.
I think you can if you want to. I'll sell him to you.
If you're in leagues with Bubba.
Yep. He's all
fire
yours.
Away. Fire those trade offers away in all those trading leagues you're in.
Yeah, all those trading leagues I'm in, exactly. All those trading leagues I'm in. All right, this is a fun one for me because this is why these questions are good, because initial glance, even my co-host went, man, he's been horrible. But Joe G asks, will Taylor Ward improve? I say yes. And for the reasons are, he's hitting the crap out of the baseball, people. Like, he really is. And this is one of those unlucky situations, if you want to agree on unlucky. Like, he's hitting a $148 in June with 2 home runs. That sucks. 17% walk rate, which I'm a big fan of. 21% barrel rate, 45% hard hit rate, and he has a 62% fly ball rate. Like, that is ungodly stuff. So there's a point where stuff has to shift in the right direction. But I'll let Ryan have the floor here to see if he's got something to point me in the wrong direction.
No, I mean a 64% fly. That's a little much. It's a little much, Taylor. That's Ryan Schimpf category.
Ryan Schimpf.
You don't want to be there. That dude hits fly balls. Taylor Ward homer tonight, Tuesday night. I think for everything you just said, Bubba, the skills have been there, the results haven't. I think this turns around pretty quickly for Taylor Ward. And
now that gives him a 5-game hitting streak with homers in back-to-back games. So
there we go. Yep.
I think we're gonna get good. He started out the year on fire, then it regressed, and I think we're gonna see another push from Taylor Ward.
But do agree, and I should know this because I have a lot of Taylor Ward. Did not realize how bad it has been in June on the surface. So good to.
All right, it's been rough. At futures_bet, our buddy says, besides taking a chance on Julio, I don't want anybody on the risers list. I think the projection systems are way off here.
I would argue that's probably a recency bias thing for what we've seen in the first half. And again, these projections are weighing what we have seen in the first half. They do update nightly. I know that the rates as well update with what we've seen, and they kind of blends year to date with the preseason baseline. But I just think even over a half season, the hitter is far more likely, especially these established older guys, are far more likely to get back to their normal level versus what we saw in the first half. So if you had to pick 3 guys on the riser list, Bubba, to basically meet their projection or even exceed their projection with a strong second half, who would your 3 be?
Jake Berger, for one. Are we allowed to say Julio Rodriguez? Is that allowed?
Yeah.
I'll say Julio.
We'll allow it. I'll update the Constitution, but we'll allow it.
I'll say Julio. It's like the joke on my golf show. Who do you like in the 10K range? Not named Scotty Scheffler. That's like our joke.
Yeah.
Jake Berger, Julio Rodriguez. I'll stand by my man. Give me Bubba Shutt.
I'll go George Springer.
I knew it.
Just because I have to at this point. Doubling down here. I will go Spencer Torkelson. And actually, I'll go someone we didn't talk about, Keibert Ruiz, who's only hitting 204 with 4 home runs, but had that like awful flu, illness, whatever, lost 20 pounds, has been hitting much better lately. Rest of season projection for Keibert Ruiz is 250 and 8 home runs. I actually think Ruiz could hit over 250. The 8 home runs I buy, I actually think Ruiz could hit over 250 the rest of the way, assuming he is back and healthy and all that stuff.
The average, I agree with 100% with Ruiz. Once he gets healthy, that average should skyrocket over that. One of the projections that we didn't talk about that seems entertaining, Elias Montero is projected to hit 249 with 12 home runs in the second half.
Yeah, I ain't buying that. Unless the whole second half is in Coors.
Yeah,
Not buying that.
Like, if he does that, you guys should all be picking him up right now and start rostering him as much as possible. Like 7.5% barrel, 42% home run or a hard hit rate this year. Batted ball, 47% fly ball, 5% home run to fly ball. I have a lot of questions when it comes to Elias Montero, not to mention just playing time in general.
I was just gonna say he has not started any of the last 4 games for the Rockies. So.
Yeah, so like I saw that one and I was like 12 home runs in the second half, 249 even. Like I could have said if you would have said 215 with 12 home runs, yeah, maybe he runs into a hot streak because he had power in the minors, but no, not the bad average, not a chance. So that means everyone go pick him up because I just totally just talked so down on him. So
no, I'm with you. I'm with you on that one. We kind of glanced over Montero, but yeah, I'm not buying that one.
All right, that should wrap us up, Mr. Bloomfield. Any final thoughts before we head out and come back on Thursday, looking at Week 15 Fab?
We back for Fab on Thursday. We'll probably do this similar exercise for pitchers.
That'll be fun.
Some point next week, unless I think of something better, which probably won't happen. So we'll probably do something with ERA and WHIP or something for pitchers. I just think it's fun conversation to compare these projections versus what we've seen. So,
yep, no, that should be a fun one. I'm with you on that. So we'll check that out. Hopefully, not as much news on Thursday. Cross your fingers on that one because that was a brutal 48 hours we've had in the news cycle of late. So hope your teams are surviving. Let's put it that way. We're getting close to the All-Star break here, and we'll be back with you guys on Thursday. Make sure y'all check out Ryan on Twitter at RyanBHQ, the podcast at Bubba Bloom Pod. I'm at BD Intric, and this was Bubba and the Bloom, episode 146. Catch y'all next time.